Near money this week, we obviously had the Iran ceasefire that has led to a market rally in the middle of the week, plus some other news that Andrew and I are going to talk about. Andrew, the dynamic duo is back together. We took Good Friday off, but here we are.
Good to be back, man. I'm coming in on two wheels in a rental truck. Had to get apparently there's some recall in my truck. I don't know. I don't understand these things. They acted very surprised that I didn't know about it when they called me.
Yeah, well, it's amazing, and the dedication to you doing this in a rental, just getting it done, getting the message out, the word out. It's inspirational, to be honest with you.
Just out here grinding. I mean, it's a beautiful spring day. You can see the sun coming in the window, making weird shadow. I look very tan across the middle part of my face.
Yeah, you do look good. So yesterday you were off, and
Yes.
the market rallied. I was on sabbatical, and the market tanked. Does this give you kind of any feeling of inferiority or anything like
Yeah,
that?
I think if there's one big takeaway from this call, it's that you need to be in the office and I need to be out of
So
it.
we're recording a day early because basically I wanted to get your thoughts on yesterday's rally when we did not obliterate an entire civilization and just the market action. And I was on the news here locally and I shared, my perspective. But what was your thought on, the market reaction yesterday to the news?
I think the indication, if you wanted to take away, is that market participants read the situation with the potential obliteration of civilization more accurately than certainly anybody on social media and also probably mainstream media. There was a lot of kind of whining and crying. I felt like that the market was not down more on the day before the deadline, and ultimately I think that the market just kind of said, "Hey, this is talk coming from the president. It's not going to happen." And then when what the market wanted, which was positive news, what they wanted, participants saw what they wanted. There was reason for optimism, and not only that, but it's probably a little bit expedited by some. See, I told you so. We were right. So I don't. It's not the kind of move that I necessarily view as a permanent reversal. With all of these ceasefires, anytime you see that, especially those that are limited to a specific time frame, I still think there's more volatility ahead. And I think even this morning we're seeing that in futures market as more comes out of the Middle East and things that are being invited to. And I still feel, I don't know about you, but I still feel like there's quite a bit of uncertainty about what the actual terms are.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely true. But you're touching on something where people were, wondering why the market was so resilient in the face of these, major threats and conflicts. And then yesterday's rally could have been much more powerful if, and what I think is what you're saying is it's more of a contained ban because people never feared the worst case scenario
Yep.
with the conflict. So the snapback rally wasn't, some major adjustment yeah, I don't know what they're
Yeah,
gonna.
to that point, I think people love to think of market participants as overreactionary, and I think there's certainly good reason to think that way. In this one specific instance, at least this week, I actually felt like the market response was pretty muted in both directions. So I'm hesitant to say there was a real level-headedness from the market, but it the outcome portrays a more reasoned approach to what was going on.
Yeah, and I would say, to your point about what the final deal is, we don't know, but something that struck me in the president's Truth Social post yesterday was him saying Iran has already had a significant regime change. And to me, that means he's moving the goalpost to declare victory. I don't want to get this thing resurrected or keep moving. So I think that the final terms to me almost are not as important to investors as the fact is that the president seems to be declaring a big victory and moving on.
Yeah, I think so. I also saw a lot of chatter from defenders of the president, specifically along the lines of, well, regardless of the deal, Iran was saying they weren't going to make a deal, and now they made a deal. Therefore, getting them to the table through these threats to obliterate a civilization was a real win. He's a master negotiator. I don't really buy that stuff. The regime change thing is particularly, I don't know if comical is the right word in this situation, but particularly interesting to me in a kind of funny way. because I don't understand the religious components and the geopolitical components to the degree that experts would, but it certainly seems to me like we got regime change and that we got a bunch of younger guys that think the same way. So so it doesn't seem like a real breakthrough there.
So let's get you out on this. Do you think investors, assuming the next 2 weeks, uh, things do not reverse course significantly in terms of this conflict, do you think investors now just go back to their assessments of the market and the economy to mid-February, where, you know, inflation a little bit higher, labor market a little bit weaker, valuation's not amazing, but some opportunities? Or do you think things have changed for your outlook and your team's outlook for the rest of the year, given this conflict interlude?
I think the biggest thing that has changed, yes and no, I guess is my answer. Yes, in the sense that I think we do return to the things that we were thinking about in February. I will say, having gone through an earnings season during this war, between the sell off and relatively robust earnings in a lot of sectors of the economy, I do think the valuation story has changed quite significantly. And I
Okay.
don't know that everyone's necessarily noticed that. So I think we're going to go back to thinking about the same things, but I think there's much more opportunity than there was when this conflict started.
Just certain sectors, you mean, that were harder hit as a
Yeah.
result of what's been going on pre-conflict and then accelerated during the conflict?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
All
I,
right.
and I, and I think if there was a positive for the general investor, and by that I mean, let's just say somebody that just has market exposure, I think the positive is that if nothing else, and this certainly was not the intention, you don't start wars for this, but it did take some of the focus off of the AI software tied bundle of investments that were just getting hammered. It's not like
Yeah.
they've had a great relief rally, but it changed the narrative for a little while. And I'd like to think cooler heads would prevail when they re-enter that realm.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same camp as you, and I appreciate you bringing up that valuation observation. One thing I would add to that is the price of oil is still elevated. I mean, it's still 50% above where it was before this started. So yes, it sold off by 15% yesterday, but it's still, in the high 90s. And does that impact, inflation numbers, profitability? Or are we seeing a steady climb down? So I think we need to see traffic on the straight, and I think we need to see oil prices come down further to feel like there's not going to be some carry-on effects to what we've been going through the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think people are really quick to claim victory on oil when it's down a certain amount. People point out that, CNBC and others don't show the oil price ticker when it's actually coming down. And honestly, I don't know if that's true, but I see a lot of people talking about it. But the reality, it'd be kind of funny if it was. But the reality is, to your point, I mean, we're still way higher on
Right.
oil.
Yeah.
And until we see that come through, I continue to think that is a legitimate threat to the inflation picture. And I would argue that, unlike in 2022, it is probably transitory. It's not caused by checks hitting mailboxes and money being spent left and right. But it should pass through, but it's going to take some time.
All right, Andrew. I appreciate your dedication to the cause today. Get out of your rental car, go check in on the office, and we'll talk next week. Thanks, buddy.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right, just wrapping up some thoughts without Andrew. One thing I wanted to touch on is BlackRock, the chairman Larry Fink's annual letter to shareholders, was something that I think it's worth investors reading or listening to. You can listen to it online on their site, or you can read it. He touches on a lot of things that I think are important these days. The theme of why it's beneficial to be a long-term investor, how there are some, income inequality issues that could be addressed through early savings accounts, which then build up a nest egg to help people participate in the capital markets. Stresses something interesting in terms of the necessity of being able to participate in the capital markets with home affordability stretched, with tight inventory, with maybe rates being a little bit higher than people were accustomed to. Is home ownership going to be the path to increasing net worth, getting into the middle class, upper middle class? And people are buying homes later as well. So participation in the capital markets may be now the new home ownership. There's also the thought that investing and participating in the gains that are driven by AI, not only being good for your long-term prosperity, could help shield you and provide protection from the damage done to your career or industry by AI. So I think that's a letter that's worth pausing and checking out as an investor. It's a thought-provoking article. As always, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the bostonadvisor.com for my other content, including a Wednesday reading list where I recap the best articles that I read over the prior week from a personal finance standpoint, share a book recommendation, and an updated Boston corner every week with local articles of interest. Thank you. Talk to you soon.